Excuse me. Hello, my name is Katrina Jackson and I recently left my job as a science video producer at NASA. So I'm taking about a year off from full-time work to take a career break, and this video will serve as an explanation of my whole situation here. So for any friends or colleagues or family members or acquaintances who are asking me what I'm doing, I can now point them towards this video, which is great because I don't like talking and explaining myself over and over. But it's also good because this video will help me myself keep it straight in my head. What is this that I'm doing and why? And this is helping me be able to articulate that. So this explainer video is going to come in 4 sections. Section 1 will be talking a little bit about my work at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Section 2 will be a brief explanation of why I left my job. Section 3 will be what I'm hoping to get out of this career break. And section 4 is what I am planning to do during this career break. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of a few videos that I'm working on that I'll be posting on my channel later on. If you are bored at any point, feel free to skip ahead to the next section, but let's go ahead and get started. All right, section 1. My job at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. So I was a science video producer at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland for 5 years and a few months. I started as a summer intern back during my master's degree program, and at some point I might make a different video about my educational path leading up to NASA, but not right now. So after my internship and after I graduated with my master's degree, I came back to Goddard to work full-time in their Office of Communications as a video producer. I started out as a quote production assistant, but in this particular situation, what that meant was I was really more like a junior producer and editor. I worked with a lot of different missions and subject areas at Goddard, developing my video production and editing skills. And then after about 2 years, I was given the title and salary of a video producer. But throughout that whole time, I was doing more or less the same type of work. So the type of work that this job involved was I worked on video content to accompany press releases, I worked on video content to document and explain mission progress, and I worked on video content related to telling stories for any other Goddard missions or projects or teams or departments. Some of my work was preparing roll-ins for live shots and press conferences. If you're not familiar with those terms, live shots are when we would have a morning full of live interviews with news stations across the country. We would have a scientist sit in the chair in our studio, and via a satellite feed they would talk with different local news stations across the country. And roll-ins were little short video clips that we would prepare ahead of time to roll when they were answering specific questions that would go along with what they were saying. Some of my work involved providing resources for outside content producers by helping them with footage requests, like if 60 Minutes wanted a particular, they're looking for particular footage of a Hubble servicing mission, I would help find that footage for them and digitize it if it wasn't digitized already from the original tapes and send it to them. Or escorting crews who were visiting Goddard. So like if a TV show like Exploration Outer Space was wanting to come film on campus, sometimes I would be their escort for the crew and take them to the different locations. Another part of my job was optimizing my video content for different platforms like NASA TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram TV. And another part of my job was preparing archives of video content. During my time at Goddard, I made video content or video roll-ins for a lot of different missions and projects, including MMS, the Magnetospheric Multiscale Mission, MAVEN, Mars Atmosphere Volatile Evolution, GPM, the Global Precipitation Measurement Suite of Satellite, GOES-R, which is a geostationary weather satellite, ARA, which is an atmospheric chemistry satellite, the summer internship program, the digital learning program, satellite servicing technology, and OSIRIS-REx, which is the asteroid sample return mission, and what I've spent the most time on, the Hubble Space Telescope, which you know what Hubble is, hopefully. So for the Hubble Space Telescope, I started working with Hubble back in 2015 for the 25th anniversary of Hubble's launch. And then after that, I became the lead video producer for the Hubble Space Telescope project at NASA Goddard. And so, especially during the last couple of years, Hubble is what I've spent most of my time on. So another large part of the job is coordinating with a lot of different people. So some of the people I might have to coordinate with would include public affairs officers, scientists and engineers, project managers, people on our own multimedia team, including animators and visualizers, our videographers, and then coordinating with our web team and our social media team, and sometimes coordinating with outside content producers. So yeah, there's a lot of different people to always be talking to and trying to coordinate with and make sure everybody's on the same page. That was always a challenging part of the job. So one thing I want to mention is that my work at NASA was a very small subset of all the space media content that exists. So at NASA Goddard, at any one time, there were probably about 15 or so producers working there. And then NASA Goddard is just one of 10 NASA field centers plus NASA headquarters. So there are a lot of organizations putting out content and dealing with different missions and stories. And then NASA itself is not even the whole space industry. So space stories are coming out of ESA, the European Space Agency, or private companies like SpaceX, or universities or research institutions. So whenever anybody would ask me, hey, did you have anything to do with this specific piece of space content? The answer is most likely no, because I was just one small tiny part out of all the space stuff that exists. And even the mission I was most heavily involved with, Hubble, involved multiple organizations and multiple content producers, so I can't even take credit for all of the Hubble-related content that's come out over the past few years. But if you have followed a lot of space content over the past few years, hopefully you've seen some of my work at some point. And something else that I want to note relating to NASA Goddard. So the Goddard Space Flight Center, it's a really big place. It's got something like 10,000 people of civil servants and contractors working within that organization. And it's kind of like a college campus for adults. And there are a lot of different recreational clubs that are sponsored by the Goddard Employee Welfare Association. So one of the clubs was the Music and Drama Club, which goes by the acronym MAD, and I was very heavily involved in MAD. So MAD puts on theatrical productions, including a large cast fall musical and a smaller cast musical or play in the winter or spring. And I've been heavily involved with MAD as a performer and director and choreographer and publicity coordinator. And throughout my videos that I'll be making, I'll probably be mentioning MAD a lot and be featuring some of my friends from the Music and Drama Club. So now you know what that is. All right, let's move on to section 2, why I left my job at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. So I don't want to go into too much detail here, but just know that nothing horrible happened, and that in general NASA is a really great place to work, and for anybody who likes space like I do, obviously NASA is a great place to be. But of course, any job has its pluses and minuses, and over time, the minuses can maybe wear down on you and start to feel bigger than the pluses. In particular, for my job working as a video producer at NASA Goddard, some of the pluses are that, as I mentioned, NASA's a great place to be if you like space. You get, direct contact with all these different space missions, and you get to see instruments that are about to go into space and watch rocket launches and be one of the first people to know about cool science results and be on the front lines of crafting stories that are communicating these really cool science results from these spacecraft that are in space and giving us data, which, you know, that's pretty awesome. Obviously, yeah, it was a great job. And another big positive of working at NASA is NASA has really incredible brand recognition. And so just the prestige of working at NASA is always a benefit. NASA is one of the few places where if you say you work there, almost anybody who hears you say that will just think it's the coolest thing in the world. Yeah, I mean, you can look on Twitter and see people saying, hey, I got an internship at NASA, and immediately there'll be all these responses being like, that's amazing, awesome. It's so cool that you get to do that. And yeah, as soon as you introduce yourself to anybody and say, I work at NASA, immediately they think you're cool and respect you. So yeah, there are a lot of good things about working there. So some of the minuses, some of the negatives for my job as a video producer at NASA. So in general, NASA is kind of a risk-adverse environment, and that really sort of filters into a lot of the day-to-day aspects of my job. And you know, it's the government. You can't really go too crazy there. Just like any sense of humor or anything that's a little bit out of the box, it would always be a struggle to do anything like that. And yeah, just lots of layers of review for anything you create. And just for me personally, I felt like there was kind of a lack of feeling of having control over my own work. As I mentioned previously, there are a lot of people to coordinate with, and that's also just a lot of people having input into your videos. And it was rare that I really got to feel like I had any sort of control over what I was making or how I was making it. And producers don't have any control over the dissemination of their work. So even though we're trying to, you know, optimize our products for different platforms, it doesn't matter how much coordination you try to do. The people who are in charge of posting it might just do something completely else than what you were expecting them to do. I just want to read through a few brief snippets of things that I wrote in my personal journal, in my personal notes over time. So, November 3rd, 2017. I'm struggling a lot with lack of motivation, tiredness, just can't get myself to do any work. I just want to have a big break and do something else for a while. November 30th, 2017. I feel like I'm at a bit of a transition period where I've lost my way a bit in terms of career goals. There are the problems of me being tired, not having motivation, and hating my office, and there's the problem of I don't feel like I'm able to have ownership of my work. So what I meant there by hating my office, I meant literally the physical space. So I was working in a small windowless office, and personally I'm really bad at decorating, so I had never particularly tried to make my office space look nice and feel like a comfortable space to work in. So over time, working 8 hours a day in this small, dark, ugly space, it eventually started to wear down on me and cause, you know, fatigue and depressive symptoms, and just I would dread going into work. Luckily, not too long after I wrote that journal entry, I did buy a lamp that had different lighting settings and tried reorganizing the stuff on my desk a bit. So that did definitely help a bit. Yeah, so if you're like me and don't decorate very well and don't take too much care with your environment, know that it is important to try to make your working space be a comfortable space that you enjoy working in. Because yeah, after a while, it will probably get to you. Back to my snippets of journal entries. June 21st, 2018. I've been working in government video for 4.5 years, and I feel like all my creativity and motivation is slowly drained. I don't feel like I have any good ideas anymore, and even if I did, I don't know how I could implement it. September 4th, 2018. Decided I want to look for other job opportunities in 2019. December 4th, 2018. Have made steps toward quitting my job. Yeah, so as you can see, leaving was not a snap decision at all. I had been thinking about it for a long time, and while it was a great place to work, I am definitely glad I left. So another factor that went into deciding to leave was the fact that I am lucky enough, very fortunate, to be financially able to quit my job and take a career break and not work full-time for a few months or so. Not a lot of people are in that position, and I'm very grateful that I am. So I don't have any debt. I paid off all my student loans a few years ago. I don't have any children or any dependents other than my 2 kittens. I am healthy. This is a big one. No chronic illnesses. I know a lot of people in this country have some sort of illnesses where you need medicine regularly in order to function and to live, and that medicine costs a heck of a lot of money here, and I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that. And also, I'm just barely young enough to qualify for the cheapest available health insurance plans. A catastrophic level health insurance plan has a super high deductible and provides minimal coverage, but will save me from financial ruin if some sort of health emergency were to occur. So this type of plan is a great option for me, but there's an age limit on it. And if I had waited a few more months to quit, I wouldn't be able to get the cheapest health insurance plan, and I would be paying a lot more in premiums, insurance premiums each month. Yeah, so this was good timing for me personally, and I know a lot of luck and privilege, along with my own personal choices, went into me being able to be in a position where I can quit my job for a few months and not work for a few months. Moving on to section 3, what I hope to get out of my career break. So one thing I hope to get out of this career break is refreshment, and what I mean by that is I'm going by the definition provided by Google, which is the giving of fresh mental or physical strength or energy. So basically I'm hoping I can take a break for long enough where eventually I want to do full-time work again. I'm also hoping to get out of this career break new experiences, skills, and ideas that I can bring to the table for whatever I end up doing next. I'm also hoping to gain a more refined sense of self. So self-exploration is a continuous process for all people, I assume, but I know it's a continuous process for me. And I've always been a fairly awkward person who kind of struggles to talk, and I don't really express my full personality in most situations. So I've also always been more comfortable being an expressive person when I'm on camera or in some sort of performance-like situation. So usually for performance-like situations, there's a purpose other than me. So I'm playing a character on stage, or I'm communicating a science story, or something to that effect. But I would like to try putting myself in performative situations where I'm expressing myself, with that being the primary purpose of expressing myself. And I'm thinking that by doing this, it will help me clarify to myself who I am, what I like, what I want, what I feel, and kind of practice acting in the role of myself. And hopefully that will transfer over to non-performative real life situations as well. That's the hope anyway. So section 4, what I'm planning to do during this career break. So by next spring or so, I want to have figured out what it is that I want to do next. But in the meantime, what I wanted to be focusing on is spending time with friends and spending time doing my hobbies, which includes swing dancing and theater, and spend some time doing volunteering One volunteer organization I've gotten involved with recently is called Learning Ally, which makes audiobooks for students who have any sort of reading issues, so like dyslexia or vision impairments or any sort of other issues that cause them to struggle to read. So I really like reading out loud. Anything. I like reading anything out loud. So I think this might be something that is fun for me and that I could be good at and will fulfill a need. Another thing that I hope to do during my career break is a little bit of travel. Not too much because I'm trying to stay on a budget and not use up all my money, but I do have some travel planned. Also, to make my money stretch, I'll probably do a bit of freelancing at some point. Luckily, video production skills and multimedia skills can somewhat easily translate into freelancing gigs, so I'm optimistic that I'll be able to make a little bit of side money here and there along the way throughout this career break. And then a large part of what I want to do during this career break is what you all are here for on my YouTube channel. I would like to make some of my own videos to show here on my channel. And so what type of videos? Basically anything I want to do. I want to make whatever I want, no limits, other than limits of what's financially, physically, logistically possible. I'm thinking a lot of my content will probably focus on the intersection of STEM and the arts, just because that's something I'm personally interested in, and I have a lot of friends through MAD who do STEM and the arts, so lots of people to talk to and showcase. For a few of my videos, I want there to be some documentation of my career break, videos like this where I'm talking about myself and my situation. A heads up, the comments on my videos will be heavily moderated. I'm very aware of how horrible a place the internet can be, and I just don't want to put up with it. For my videos for NASA, those could only be minimally moderated because, of course, the government is not supposed to censor things. But this is my own channel. This is my own personal channel, and I have every right to control exactly what comments appear and to have a zero tolerance policy towards any sort of harassment or comments that make me uncomfortable or just generally annoying behavior. So that's your warning that please only say nice things. Okay, well that's all the notes I wanted to go through. I've been having a really great time so far on my career break. I mean, look, I have windows. I'm looking forward to the next few months of this career break and making some videos that I have ideas for. And speaking of the videos, would you like to see a little bit of a sneak peek of a few of the videos I'm working on? I'm gonna assume that's a yes. All right. This is the end of me talking, but enjoy this little sneak peek. Here you go.